Okay, so here we've got a set of data and we want to do some summary statistics on it. So real basic, what are the averages and what are the standard deviations? The first thing we have to decide is where are we going to put these things? Are we going to be averaging these trials? Are we going to be averaging these different trials? So of course, if we put our average down here, let's say we found the average was 0.8, for instance, we would be averaging these different ramp angles, and that just wouldn't make sense. So we want to be working over here. So before I do anything, I'm going to set this up so that I don't lose track of what I'm going to be doing. So I'm going to label this with the type of data that's going to go in there. And then, well, let's do that first. So to have the computer figure out your averages, it's really easy. Just first hit the equals key, and then you can tell it to do all kinds of things. And in this case, we're going to tell it to give us some averages. So I've started typing the word average, and eventually it pops up, so I'm just going to choose that. Now it wants to know what data to use, and I could type in, if I wanted, to tell it to average B3, C3, D3, but it's way easier if I just click and drag over that data, and then I can go ahead and just hit enter. And there it has found the average for me. Now I don't need to do this for every single cell here because I can just drag this formula down to the other cells and it will find all of those averages. Okay, so now we can see that the averages are increasing as the ramp angle increases. Kind of what we would expect. Okay, next we want to find the standard deviation. So again, before I do any work here and get confused about what I'm doing, I'm going to give myself a label. Okay, now just like we did for the averages, I'm going to start typing the same thing in. I'm going to type equals, and then I'm going to have the computer find standard deviations for me. And the formula for that starts with ST, oh look, there it is, standard deviation. Again, I'll click on that, and I'm going to select the data that I want. I want to be careful to make sure that I don't include anything that I don't want. I just want these trials. And then I can hit enter, and I can drag that formula down. Now we've got all our standard deviations. This maybe looks a bit funky. We've got a whole bunch of decimal places here, and all the rest of our data really just has one decimal place. So to make that have the same number of decimal places, I'm just going to select all this data and use this button up here to decrease the number of decimal places. You shouldn't have something with a bunch of decimal places because that would kind of be lying. You would be saying, I have been very accurate with this, when in reality your data is not actually that accurate. So we need to decrease the number of decimal places to 2 there. So there we're basically done. Just a couple extra things I would do. I would, to make sure that my data looks different than my summary statistics, I'd do a little bit of formatting just to make it clear what parts are the data and what parts are my evaluation of the data. So there I think it helps maybe make it stand out a little bit that these are not actual numbers that I found, but they're averages of my actual data. Okay, so our averages were increasing as the ramp angle increased, and our standard deviation was staying about the same the whole way, which says a little bit about our techniques that we were using for each of these angles. It tells us that each one was being just about as accurate as any other techniques that we were using.